Alright guys, I'm going to go over some of the different things when you're buying used handguns, things that I look for, and things that I base what the price may be from what I see when dealing with certain guns. Okay, you have different categories. You have people that say new in box. You have unfired. You have, believe it or not, carried but unfired. You have fired but never carried. And possibly a couple other things that I can't think of at the moment. But there's a few different things I look for when I'm looking to get a used gun. And on a lot of these guns, you're not going to be able to tell exactly how many rounds were fired. In fact, I would be willing to bet for a fact on every gun there is, you are not going to be able to tell for a fact how many rounds were fired. If I say this Glock right here has 200 rounds through it, you can pick it up and examine it, and you may think it has a little more, but you're not going to know if it has 2,000 or 8,000 through it. When I buy used guns and different things, I go for a lot of the cosmetics. I would rather buy a used gun that has some internal wear on the barrel. It's where you get some of your wear, is on the inner part of the barrel. You get rings wore around the barrel underneath the slide. I would rather have some inside wear than I would to have a gun that wasn't shot much, but the guy carried it, and it's got some cosmetic issues on the outside. That's just me. That's the way I like to do things. So I'm going to go over some of the different values with you, guns that are personalized, and different things that determine price. Now, I don't have any collectible things out here. All my collectible stuff and pretty much the whole bulk of my collection is stored somewhere. I don't keep very many things here all at once, but I do rotate things as I go along, and I will be bringing new things in for videos as I rotate things and clean guns and, you know, bring things through here. So I got a G27, G17, HK P45, Desert Eagle 50 cal. And I'm going to tell you some things about these guns and what I paid for them and what I think of them, you know, as far as like used wise and different things. Okay, let's start with this Glock. This Glock, I haven't showed it since it had its newest change to it, but this Glock was a police trade-in G17. When I got it, it had a lot of wear, and it was worn shiny up here, just from being put in and out of a holster. The actual black right here was almost, it had like, it kind of faded into silver and back to black, and there was wear like that on the slide. So what I did was I polished the barrel out to this here with the flits, and then I had this gun sent, and I had a place polish the slide down to a chrome finish like this barrel. Well, the main problem I had with that was the barrel was the slide was so slippery I could barely rack the slide. It was really that bad. It was like grabbing a butter knife, you know, right on the spine where there's no teeth, like this, and pulling. It was just really slippery. But the reason I had this Cerakoted, that's what it is now, it's Cerakoted graphite black, something bad started to happen. I started to get patches of a blackish. It wasn't rust. Maybe it was a form of rust, I don't know. But I started to get these weird patches of like blackish color right around here, and I think back here. So I sent this and had it Cerakoted, and now I think the metal won't deteriorate anymore underneath. Now this Glock here, it says humans for targets. It was etched in there. Now this is a gun that is of very little value on the resale market. Okay, not many people are going to want this gun because it has etched in there humans for targets. They're not going to know, most of the people aren't going to know what that means. And number two, there's something etched into the gun. They probably just want the gun to shoot or do target practice with. So this gun right here on the resale market would not be worth much money at all. You know, that's one of those deals where when I did that, I said, I'm going to keep this for good. And, you know, I knew there wasn't going to be anything I was going to do with it once that was done. And I was fine with that. Okay, now here's an example of a Glock that I would not sell for as much as a new one costs. In other words, if somebody offered to pay me what a brand new G27 cost in a store, I would not sell this Glock. And the main reason for that is this is one of the first batches of the baby Glocks that came into this country when they started making Glocks, baby Glocks. As you can see, it does not have the grenade-style checkering on the front strap. These were made later, so they all had the finger groove, but this does not have the checkering on the front strap. It's smooth, and I like that. Another thing that I really love about this Glock is, I don't know if you can tell or not on camera, it has my favorite finish on the slide. This is the old, flat, just flat, basic, black slide. It's not shiny, it doesn't have a texture to it, it's just flat black. Now that was the Glocks that I like. A lot of the newer ones, the 3rd gens, and I think they changed it again now with 4th gen, but they had like a Teflon slick feeling to them, and they look kind of glossy. Okay, so I prefer this older style without the shine to it. Now this was just wiped off, and as you can see, there is no shine to this. It's flat. It's not glossy. It doesn't have the little like orange peel pattern like the newer ones do. This gun is in very good condition. There is a couple of slight marks you can see in the camera right there and right there. It's not a big deal to me. But this is an old one. This is probably around 1995. I'd have to look up to see exactly when. But all in all, for a gun that's probably 15 years old or more, maybe 16 years old, I think it's in beautiful condition. And this is one that I won't get rid of. This is one of the ones that when they originally started coming over, they had to have the adjustable rear sight in order to have enough points through the ATF to import a pistol. I'm not going to get into that whole subject. That's another video. But there was a point system, import points. And the adjustable sight made it have an extra point. So, this is a Glock that I would not sell for the price of a new one, even though it's used. Okay, now let's get into the Desert Eagle. I got a really good deal on the Desert Eagle. You guys know how I like these guns. I've always liked them. And let me just clear something up to get it out of the way. I don't buy guns because I think they'll make good videos or because I'm bored and don't have anything left to video. If I buy a gun, it's because it's something I actually want. Now, I've liked Desert Eagle since I was 14 years old, and I've held my first one. And that was before YouTube was ever even around. So just wanted to clear that up. Okay. Here's the Desert Eagle. And I bought this used. Basically, the guy needed some money. It was around tax time, and he owed. And the guy had a family. I think he had a kid, 1 or 2 kids. But I think he needed money for taxes, if I'm not mistaken. Something along those lines. But I got this Desert Eagle for $800. And with it, I also got 2.5 boxes of Hornady 50 AE ammo. And I got 3 magazines. So $800, and that's everything I got. Now, this is not what I would call an excellent condition gun, and I'm going to show you reasons why. This is a good condition. You basically have excellent, good, fair, poor. I'm going to say this is a good condition. See these marks right there? Right along here? Okay, it's got some marks up there. There's a little nick. Trying to remember where everything's at. Hold on one second. Okay, here's more of what I'm trying to show you guys. See the wear up here at the muzzle? Just these scratches. I mean, I don't know how somebody does this. I think some guys just tend to be careless with stuff. Sometimes it just happens. But what I believe is somebody was just like laying this down on something and then picking it up and it was scraping or something. Don't get me started on that. I try to be really gentle with my stuff. But anyway, that is the wear that I've found. And I'm pretty sure this gun was fired quite a bit. If you look at the, let me get this focused in. If you look at the hammer, okay, there's your firing pin, the rear of the firing pin. You will see that there's actually a little divot right there in the metal from hitting the firing pin. So this gun was probably fired quite a bit. Now, I've fired this gun quite a bit. I personally have never had one jam with it. I love it. I like it really well to go shoot this. In fact, I have a video up where I did a little joke called drive-by shooting. I hold this gun out of a car window sideways with my arm bent, and I shoot all 7 rounds, and I don't have one jam. Not one jam with it. Holding the gun loose, wrist loose, sideways out of a car window, 7 rounds fast, no jams. That's a reliable gun. Next up is the HK USP 45. Now, I don't have much into this gun. Maybe about 4 1/4, something like that. This gun, you can tell, has had some carry time. See the little discoloration there on the extractor. Overall, it's a decent gun, but just the finish color on the slide is a couple of shades lighter than what it should be. This is the older style with the 45 auto actually etched into the steel, unlike now where they just kind of do a gold, they like write it with a gold writing. Okay, see the letters are a little bit different. I fired this gun maybe 450 rounds last year, and I have had no problems whatsoever. In fact, it is a great and accurate gun. I feel that this gun has been carried a lot and maybe not fired a ton. Another thing I'll do for a quick check when I look at a gun, let me get this magazine out of here. I will just rack the slide back, and then I'll turn the gun over and look at the rearmost portion underneath the slide and see what I'm working with there. You know, you can get a little look-see of, you know, what's going on in there without even taking the gun apart. This gun does have a little bit of lint in there because I do carry this one sometimes. Depends on which gun I'm taking that day or what's going on. So yeah, you can kick your slide back and get a little look in there. Also, and check your barrel. When you have a black barrel, you're always going to see these rings. I've seen guns where it was completely shiny, where there was no black on top, and then it kind of faded into some black down here and faded into a little black up there. This one isn't completely shiny yet. But I'm going to tell you what, even these guns having a lot of rounds through them and carried a lot, you're not normally going to have a problem with HKs. They're great quality, and like I said, I've carried this gun a lot, and I've shot quite a few rounds through it. I can't even remember how many last year, and I've never had a malfunction whatsoever. Nice steel magazines. Rounds. Magazines very good, feed very well and reliably. And that gun is not giving me any problems. Now, the only Glock that's ever given me a jam in my 15 years of owning and shooting Glocks is this one that's on the table. And I don't know if I can blame the gun or not. Let me give you a little background on the gun. Like I said, it's a police trade-in, and I got the gun, and I won't carry this one because it says my channel name, Humans for Targets. Some people don't know what that means, you know, about war and things like that. I won't carry that because it wouldn't look good. You know, I'm out as a civilian and I'm carrying this and something happens, it's not going to look good. Okay, I had 2 jams in this. No, actually I had 2 problems. One was a jam and one was a light primer strike. And I'm going to show you a couple of things here. Let me break this gun down for you. And it may not be the gun's fault. It may be my fault. Because I started messing around with some of the parts in this. Okay, I put in a 3.5 pound connector, which I've never had that ever make a gun not perform for me. And I've used those on a lot of Glocks. See this gold piece right here? That is a titanium lightning strike. It's called safety plunger and spring. Believe it or not, that does make a difference in the trigger pull, because when you pull the trigger, this little piece right here is pushing up and pushes against the firing pin safety as you're pulling the trigger. So with a lighter one, that does affect the trigger pull. So I would never ever have put this in a gun that I carry. And like I said, out of all the Glocks I've had in 15 years, I couldn't even tell you the number. I don't even know how many I have right now. This is the only Glock that I had 2 issues with. And let me see here. I've probably got about 2,500 rounds through this one. And it was a police trade-in when I got it. Okay. So, I don't know on this one if I can actually blame the gun or not. Who knows? Have no clue of the rounds that were fired in this gun before I got a hold of it or anything like that. Okay, now let's get into some other things. I don't want to ramble on too much, which I probably already am. You have your collectibles, like I said. Collectibles are going to continue to increase, probably could be as early as yearly. It could be every 5 years. Your Colt Pythons, things that are no longer made, things that are hard to get a hold of. Sometimes guns come out and they're hard to get because everybody wants them. So what happens is people find them and pay a high price, and then later on down the line they would never get back out of it what they have into it because they overpaid. And then once the population gets stocked with them out there, the gun stores, when they're all available and they've been out for a while, then the value of yours is going to drop back down to normal. Okay, then you have the thing with just normal inflation. This is one of the important points I wanted to go over, so you might want to pay attention to this part. I'm just going to use Smith & Wesson revolvers as an example. If you go buy a Smith & Wesson revolver new, and you pay $700 for that revolver, that revolver price at the store is never ever going to decrease. It will only go up as inflation goes up. It may even go up with a small percentage every year. So what I'm trying to tell you is that back in the 60s, I believe it was the 60s, I know a retired detective really well. He's a good friend of mine. And police department detective. He had a Smith & Wesson Model 36. Really nice gun. And I think he told me that Smith & Wesson revolvers at that time were running $160. Okay, now the same type of revolver today is going to run you around $400 through Smith, and I don't even think the quality is as high. I just like their old bluing, you know, the way they did the forged hammer parts and trigger back then. So as you see, as you go along in time, with inflation, price increases, material gets more expensive, you can actually have a Smith & Wesson long enough that used on the used market, you could make what you paid for it or more. Yeah, that's going to take some time. It's not going to be overnight. But if you're in your 20s and you buy a Smith & Wesson revolver, I guarantee you that when you're in your 60s, probably even 50s, that revolver at the store, the same model you have, is going to be much more than what you paid for it when you bought yours. That's just the way things work. Glocks didn't fluctuate too much. I remember Glocks being around $500 back in the 90s, and as you see today, I can still get a Glock for $499. So it just depends on things like Desert Eagle. I can never see them going backwards. There's really no time you're going to find a gun going backwards in price. So what I'll sum this up to is when buying used, or let me just put it to you this way. If you have a gun and you shoot it regularly and you maintain it right, you don't bang it around, you don't get scratches on the finish, you take good care of it, you replace any springs when they need to be, you can shoot that gun very regularly and you are going to get a fair market value price if you need to sell it used. It'll be used next to new, is the way I would consider it. Now, if you're going to carry this gun, even if you don't fire it that much, if it's got cosmetic wear on the outside, you're going to take a hit on the used market. That's just the way it is. But if I'm going for, let's just say I'm buying a used G19 and I'm looking around in the forums, it really doesn't matter to me if the guy says I've shot 1,000 or if the guy says I've shot 6,000. I would go for the gun that in the pictures, to me, that I thought looked the cleanest. Because on something like a Glock, that just doesn't matter. You know, you might have to change out your recoil spring, that's about it. So guys, I hope this helps you. And if you want to know anything else about this, maybe if I get enough ideas, I'll do another video. But that's just some tips and things that I go through when I'm buying a used gun. Or like I said, even if you guys want to sell a used gun, these are kind of some of the things that you can go by. It's kind of, the cosmetics is probably the outside cosmetics is the number one important thing when you're going to sell your gun. What does it look like? Is there any dings in the polymer? Is the polymer nice and smooth? Is the finish nice with no wear at the muzzle end? And even if you fired it regularly, cleaned it, put it away, you've still got a gun that's worth a nice chunk of change, and it's going to continue to be like that for years to come. Alright guys, I've rambled on too much. This is H4T. It's been great speaking to you guys, doing another video, and I'll see you guys soon. I'm out.